Welcome to the Alchemy Consulting Group podcast. Join Arquella Hargrove, Alchemy's Chief Culture Officer, for impactful conversations with business leaders and experts who are committed to transforming their work cultures and creating inclusive work environments. Let's learn, develop, and garner best practices together. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Alchemy Consulting Podcast, where we distill conversations with thought leaders to bring transformative insights and strategies. Our mission is to revolutionize organizational cultures one business at a time. And we want to hope you join us to explore vital topics that empower leaders and galvanize teams and reshape the world of work. So let the alchemy begin. And so today we have the fabulous Kyra Hardwick, who is a friend and a collaborator, partner, business partner. And so looking forward to hearing from her and her insights for sure. And then we have the wonderful Yvonne Harris as well. So Yvonne, you want to say hey to the group, to the team, to the listeners?
Of course. Every time you give your intro, Arquella, I just get really excited. The alchemy has started, and our magic maker today is our dear friend, Kyra Hardwick. Kyra, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is a treat of all treats. It's the best way, I think, to really lock in, a beautiful day is to have conversations that really do make a difference. So I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Kyra.
Today.
Well, Arquella, when I think of Kyra, I think of her as like a Renaissance woman, just a woman that does so many things and does them with excellence. I think we just need to have her introduce herself to the audience. So Kyra, can you introduce yourself?
No, I don't know how to do that. What in the world am I supposed to say? I am Kyra Hardwick. I am the managing consultant for the Kyra Company. We are a full-service business development organization. We focus on organizational development and operational management. Our goal is to make sure that businesses are strong from the inside out. We really do focus on making sure that the middle portion of our economic system, which is small business, and then those that support them have all the infrastructure and the support they need. I'll say the most concise way to say that is we focus internally with organizations, whether they're small businesses, growing, emerging, those enterprising businesses that are shaking out of that mom and pop space, ready to take on the big leagues. They're doing great things. But we focus on people, process, and the profitability model to help these businesses really become more efficient. That's really what we do. To make it as simple as possible. But I'm a mother of three. I love to have a great time at all times. And so if we're not having fun, I'm probably not doing it, just not doing it. I am a nonprofit leader in addition to that, and had the nerve during COVID to do something that I would do. One of those moments where you're like, what would you do if money wasn't an option and time wasn't a factor? I'd start a media company. I want to tell stories. And so that's what we did as well. So learning that game has been fun and long and all that good stuff, but we started BWA Media. And so I'm in the space. I love where I am. Emerging in technology. I'm officially a part of the tech industry. I'm thrilled about that. So that's who I am. I mean, that's the formal side. I hope you guys dig in a little deeper, but that was the formal side.
And so, Kyra, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was really harnessing the power to develop business. And you're known as this business development guru. And so share with, the people, our audience, right? How did that become your sweet spot?
Honestly, Arquella, I'll say it like this, and I'm going to start from the business development perspective where people think about sales and stuff. I absolutely do not enjoy sales. And I do not. And I remember my first coach, she was like, so what day is your sales day? I was like, what? What is that? She was like, what day do you actually start making calls and doing outreach and all that? I was like, I do not do it at all and never have. My clients come by way of referral or connection or networking. And so to really kick off this part of the conversation, I think for me, because of how I entered into entrepreneurship, which was out of necessity, right? So my job at that point was to figure out people, figure out this process, figure out this system. And so I really got involved in the world very organically. And organically, my nature, I learned, was I'm a relationship builder. And so I was building relationships that made sense, and I was having conversations with the right people. And as I was doing that from a business development standpoint, I was selling my business. I was selling my solutions. I was selling outcomes. I was selling value. I was solving problems and conversations. And what that started to do was generate sales. That's really how it happened. I genuinely wanted to tell people, Arquella and Yvonne, I wanted to tell people, hey, this is what I do. Well, tell me what's going on in your business. I would hear it. And then I would like partially sell it or solve it. Sorry. And before you knew it, I had sold it. And so I did that a couple times, and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So my process is this, and I need to stop, before I give them the golden egg. And then that becomes where the transaction happens. And it was really organically building trust with folks, understanding that I wanted to know them and they wanted to genuinely get to know me, because it didn't feel like a sale. And it really was not a sale. I genuinely wanted to hear their challenges. So, Arquella, I think that's where it really came from, just getting out there and networking and connecting with people and being nurtured in a really strong entrepreneurial community is where the business development, that sales side of BD really started to show up.
Kyra, I'd like to dig deeper in something that you've referenced a couple of times in your response. And for those of us that know you, know that this is a part of your secret sauce, but it's the relationship building piece.
Yeah.
And, it's been said that everything that you need is inside of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And connected to that, when you have a need, when you have something you need to innovate or bring to fore, you can't create a relationship in that moment. It needs to be an existing relationship. So as I've seen you navigating and networking, tell us how you became this master at building not only relationships, but trusting relationships,
Mm-hmm.
profitable relationships, prosperous relationships.
Yeah. Such a great lead in. Oh my gosh. So that's powerful. And as you were saying that, I was literally like visualizing my process. And I didn't know I had a process until I was in retrospect, right? So I was in the retrospective space. But Arquella, Yvonne, I am so serious about strategic planning. And Arquella, I try to get as close to a mountain as I can in October to like lock it down, right? But because I'm very serious about strategic planning, somewhere between July and October, I've mapped out my strategy for the year to come. And why and how that fits into your question is in this way. So when I understand what my goals and objectives are and what my needs are, I may have identified resources that I need access to, or people or areas of excellence or focus that I need access to. And because I understand where I'm going, when I connect with people, even if it's not time yet, but in my mind, they trigger, oh, that's in the strategy for months to come. I start cultivating conversations to understand, okay, Yvonne, tell me your thoughts on this. I'm curious. I want to learn more about what you know in this area. Is this something that that you'd be interested in? Have you thought about this? Have you spent any time doing any research? So I start having very curious conversations when I find out that someone's brilliance is in a lane that we have a gap or a need for. So I am building a genuine relationship based on potentially an opportunity for someone in the future. I don't always know, but it's definitely the case that you can't strike the match, when it's time, and think that relationship is going to be strong enough. You've got to know if that person, number one, if they're consistent. You've got to know what the quality of the relationship exchange is between the two of you all. And then you also want to really understand, is that even something they love? It's nothing like talking to a teacher that wants to retire and you're like, oh, but I have a class for you. That's not the person. So it's really having really strong and great conversations to understand what people really are seeking out there in the world, what they hope for. And then if it fits in my world, then it's great, which creates an opportunity, which fosters the process that you just spoke to. I don't have to force relationships or force opportunities. Typically, when we get a yes from a client and I know, I'm like, oh, the bench, it's on the bench. And then I know who to call on the bench. and then we can pull it in. So that's really how it works. I'm not walking around with a checklist. Because I've done my work, I understand what our existing needs or opportunities are, whether it's business or pleasure. And when I hear someone say, "Oh, I do this," or "I have a great person in this state that does this," I'm like, "Oh, we may need you. Can I get that information? Like, let's connect on that." So
Yeah,
that's really
so
how it
good.
goes.
So good. Thank you. One thing that you said to Kyra again that, I like to say when we're doing business development or whatever, it's consultative sales, right? Is that how do we add that value for people, during that conversation, which again, ultimately will lead to, right, the sale for sure. But yeah, even today, my coach be like, okay, when are you when you doing sales? What's the sale? I'm like, please, I don't have a sales day. Where I'm dialing for dollars, right? It's like, it just, it's built in relationships, right? And so I'm having relationship conversations for sure, but that consultative sales, and then too, keeping in mind again, who's in the community that you can reach out to for sure for those different opportunities, again, based on those relationships. I think is very key for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Go ahead.
Arquella, may I interject? One of the things that both of you are very good at is establishing recurring meetings. Once you've built that relationship or had that interest, I have recurring meetings on my calendar for both of you. But I think there's like for someone that's looking for some tactics, right? Like, to have a couple of great meetings and then you just fade away or there's a disconnect. Have that agreed upon cadence of meetings, and that keeps the relationship going. It doesn't have to be every week, right? But once a month, twice a month, and it keeps, Kyra, what you're saying, it keeps that moving. It keeps that energy flowing.
When we move into the world of entrepreneurship, if you don't create points of discipline for yourself or points of structure for yourself, you are all over the place. And I'm the type of person, and Arquella, I know Arquella's like, "Where's the touch point? What day is it?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm on it," or I'm saying, "Arquella, what day?" We already know that accountability is required, not because we're not reliable, but because our calendars are our guidebooks, that's our navigation tool. And we put the things that matter most there. And so that's what we use to keep us moving. And so kind of coming out of corporate, my corporate discipline was, I'm at work by 9, I leave by 5, I manage my calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, everything has a purpose. Every hour is accounted for up to and including lunch. I didn't lose that, so to speak. And now I can flex it a little bit, right? But I didn't lose that. And so when you start thinking about keeping those cadences, that cadence allows you, one, to be held accountable, and it helps you not to ruin the relationships that you have by blowing off meetings, forgetting deadlines, things like that. And if you create that kind of discipline, everyone around you will start to join in because they realize the value in it. We have a set time, we meet, we discuss, and we jump off. It may not mean that you're on a 2-hour meeting, but it does mean that you have, and I just set up a sequence today with someone. And I'm like, okay, this is and this is a CEO of a, executive director of a flourishing nonprofit. And we're talking about collaboration. I said, okay, we're going to set up our touch point, and we're going to also decide what our deliverables are by then. Because we're working executive to executive. Our teams are not involved. So we have some high level tasks that we need to get done. And we're the busiest people in the world, in our worlds, right? So she was like, okay, got it. And then she connected. And then from there, we set up the second meeting so we can make sure we had some consistency. I said, let's get meeting 1 and meeting 2 on the books because we both have some travel or what have you going on. Because if you don't, that little whining noise in the back of your head that says, don't forget you're going to meet with Yvonne. Don't forget you're going to meet with Arquella on Thursday, won't nudge you to get the work done, right? We're accountable to ourselves, and that makes me then accountable to you. Yeah, that's a great piece.
Kyra, you are, for lack of a better term, like a real social media maven. I see you everywhere in different spaces, and connect it to different topics, like connect it to different passion points. So it's like for people who follow you on social, we don't just see one side of Kyra. We see this beautiful tapestry of what makes you such an amazing business leader. But give us some tips, like how did you create such a powerful brand for yourself? I know that you're very intentional. So what are some of those steps? What are some of those tactics for those who are looking to have a more impactful presence in social media?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you, I came straight out of corporate. So I was like, oh, it was like, fingers running down a chalkboard for me. I was like, you guys want me to put my life out here? This is not, I don't know. So I had to figure out what I wanted to say about who I was, which means that I really spent like the first 2 years finding my voice. And to be very honest, for like the first probably 4 years in business, we're almost 9 years old at the end of this year. Yvonne, I wrote all my copy once a month on a Sunday. I would write 30 days, 31 days worth of content. I would take photos. I would tell my graphics person which photo went with which copy. And then we just pushed it out. I was themed, everything. It was my way of finding my voice. And so after about 4 years of that, we got rid of that static imagery. We started really taking on video. So now even more heavily on the video side, I wanted to shape my identity in a way that I could be proud of. So I wanted to share my business, exploits and all the fun stuff we get to do. I am not necessarily the one that's posting myself with my client to say, just had a great consultation. That's not my style. But my style is to talk about outcomes, value, continue to push the messaging of what's possible to my audience. And that's really where it's coming from, a place of that educator in me that wants everyone to have an opportunity to say, hey, this was my aha moment, and here are the things I learned. I'll bullet those down, and then here's what you can do to adopt it, or here's some things you should consider. So I became more of an info and a life, kind of a life share. I don't know what to call that. That was my strategy. So I built trust that way. I built trust, I built reliability, and I built consistency. And then people would see me in public and they'd say, oh my God, you literally are like the same person. That was really important to me, Yvonne. I didn't want someone to see me online and see me at the grocery store and not have the same encounter. I didn't want them to see this really made up person on an image and then, catch me in my sweats and you can't tell it's me, so to speak. I've ever seen folks that have their marketing materials you're like, where's this? This is the person I'm looking for. Where's it? Like, you can find me on me on my marketing material. I wanted consistency. I wanted that brand quality. So to answer that, consistency was the thing, finding my voice and creating a true line of symmetry for my messaging. Now, what I am not is trendy. And I have to just be okay with that. So I'm not necessarily the person that's going to jump on the latest trend. What I am going to do is hold steady, because trends, they come and go. So I wanted to hold steady and really talk about value, show the value. It took me a long time, Yvonne, to start sharing my family and my kids. I share very sparingly, but I try to share very meaningful moments so that people can see. I like being a mom is like a super anointing for me. Like, I love that. And so I love being a mother. So I try to show very intimate moments that demonstrate our collaboration and our partnership as a family, like how we link up together. Like we say, we're locked in, like this is what we do. Our group chat is sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's crazy, sometimes they're testing me to see how far we can go. But that's what we do, as a family. So I try to share that. But most importantly, I really want people to click on any of our content, and I want them to learn and take a step.
Yeah.
Learn and take a step. That's what I really want.
And that's sometimes the hardest thing, right? Is that first step. And actually, it may take the 21 steps, right, to build a habit, right? You got to get out there and you got to try. And I'm actually talking to myself. This is a reflective moment, and I'm sharing it with you. But I also do
Right.
want to co-sign on the mom and
Yes.
the special time. I've seen you in action. We're both boy moms, so we share that
Yes.
special connection. And I do enjoy what you do share about that part of your life because,
Yeah.
and it's important, Kyra, because we see all the business side that
Yes.
it encourages other parents to say, you can have it all. You can do it all.
Yeah.
It's just, again, being intentional on how you balance. Yeah.
Yvonne, that is paramount what you just said, being intentional about how you balance. And I'll share this. My daughter, who is in college, when she left, I looked at my youngest son, and so I have 3 kids altogether. So my oldest has been gone for a minute. He's doing his thing. And I mean, he's the leader of the pack. My daughter's gone off to school, so now we've got a different dynamic. And my son, my youngest, I'm like, okay, you're the only child, so how you want to do this? Like, well, tell me what you what would success look like to you, you know? And so recently, he just went on a business trip with me. I said, okay, I'm pulling you out of school for a couple of days. I'm gonna write this letter to your school, but you're gonna be immersed in technology and go through this innovative activity, these activations we have going on. There's no reason why I should be doing this with this major corporation and these students, and you're not here. So this is definitely a reason for you to travel with me. And so it's not that glamorous though. Like, mommy's working, you're doing the activities, you're coming back to get your VIP access, right, from me, and then you're going back into the space. But I'm working. And so for me, it's good to involve them. But this was the first time I really just kind of let him roll with me on a business trip, because I wanted him to feel involved. I don't want him to feel like, man, she's out of here. I mean, I travel in my busy season. I probably travel once, maybe twice a month. And for, a ninth grader, that can seem like a lot. Like, my mom's gone every other week, basically. So what does that look like? Well, for me, I don't really have guilt or remorse because I'm very open and communicate heavy with my kids. But I do know it's important for them to see me in action, you know, out of the house, out of the office. I want them to see what it looks like. How do I create an opportunity for us to live a life? What have my gifts and my talents created or produced? I want them to see that. So when you talk about creating that balance, it's important for them to see it. And no greater reward than to see them give it back to me or use my words back on me. And I'm like, ooh, you were listening, or them solving problems. And I'm like, how'd you do that? Oh, great advocacy. I love what you did, and then there's those moments like when we were flying back, and I was like, you want me to come sit next to you? I'll come sit in the middle seat. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, come on over here. And he just laid on me and he slept the whole ride, like in my arms. You're a big boy, but sometimes you just want your mama and your daddy in a way, right? And so I think what's good about it is finding balance. And for me, emerging now as I'll call it a single mom. I mean, his dad's very active, but I'm single in my house, my kids. It's important to keep that balance and keep the communication open and team up and really, really foster that healthy relationship. I don't want them to, if I can prevent them feeling present and unseen, I want to prevent them from feeling present and unseen. I want them to be seen at all times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It warms my heart. What are your self-proclaimed superpowers?
Girlfriend, let me tell you something. First of all, I can cook a mean macaroni and cheese.
Yes.
But aside from that,
anything with cheese is aces in my book.
Oh my gosh. No, like, my superpower, listen, I can hear someone's vision, and it's almost like it just like a kaleidoscope. It just like comes alive in my head. I can see it, I can envision it. And I start to put these pieces together as they're telling me, their thoughts and their dreams. And I encourage clients or partners or colleagues or whatever, just to go as far and wide as you can. It's my job to process it. And then when I start pulling it together, and if you've ever been in a consult with me, I illustrate. And so before you know it, I've got this pictorial in front of me, this illustration, if you will. And I'm like, I see it. And so as I start giving it back to them and start packaging it in a way that I'm going to prepare, to present it to them, they're like, man, that was it. I'm like, well, what about this language? And if you built this out this way, and how does this go? And so before you know it, where people are coming to you with this one-dimensional, thought or need or problem they're trying to solve, we've really created the dream, and really then put it in a position to be materialized and monetized. So I think that's a superpower. That's a gift. I'm anointed to do what I do. I don't know that I would ever care this much about other people's dreams if I was not anointed to do it. So let's just be very, very clear. I did not ask for this. I didn't ask for it. I'm just really great at operations. I'm a methodical thinker. I'm strategic by nature, and I live in the world of solution. And so that's really a superpower. The other thing is I love for real. I love very sincerely. Yeah. And I'm very selfish with my love too. Like, everybody can't have it. They can't have it.
They can't handle it.
They can't. It's too much because it's deep. It's real and it's deep. And I will say that's a superpower because I love the fact that, we are gifted with an opportunity to have very, very, very intimate connections with people. And so, my girlfriend circle is real, it's tight, it's real. And on the intimate partner side, it's a very, the heat is hot. And so if you can't stand the heat in this hot kitchen, so to speak, it's not the kitchen for you, because being with someone that's really innovative and creative and talented, and that's clear about their purpose in life, is a tall task for a mate, right? To connect. And so, it is a blessing to get to a place where you can lock in with someone that understands that and that has the capacity to walk with you beyond the surface, what they think they see, because it gets deeper. And I think that's real. So that's a superpower. I often tell, and I'm not afraid to tell, like when I'm dating someone, so I am thrilled about the opportunity to be able to fully just release my love to someone. But I'm very careful about it because it is a very, it's a wave. It's a strong tidal wave when it comes through, and it's very beneficial, but it also comes with a lot of requirements. And I think that's true for my friendship circle too. Yeah. And we lean on each other in a real way. I like to I like my hair to be all the way down when I'm with my people, So that's just me. And those are my superpowers. I am genuinely this person all the time, and more intimately, I like to really be able to just lock in with my people and just enjoy the fact that they're gifts in my life and I am in theirs.
Well, I'm so appreciative of your transparency and your authenticity in this moment. But I want to send out a kind of like a disclaimer to our listeners. Like, you're listening to Kyra, and first I'll connect to your first superpower, like your visionary skill. The takeaway is not for everyone to walk away from this call being a self-proclaimed visionary. It's a very unique gift that you have. Really, the takeaway is to find your gifting, right? And to lean in to that. And, on the relationship side, whether it's client relationships, personal relationships, or a combination thereof, it's just really showing up for those people that you feel a special, I would even say like a divine connection with, right? Like, you can't be friends with everyone. You can't have everyone as your client. But for those that are occupying those spaces and places in your life, how do you just show up for them on a level where they feel appreciated and both parties are learning and growing from each other? So I think the takeaway here may just be that reflective moment, Kyra, where everyone's just looking at what's my true gifting, whether it's one or two things, and then how am I showing up in relationships in a way that's meaningful and that's prosperous for everyone involved.
For everyone. That's good. I do an activity in our nonprofit with youth, and I ask them to put their support in buckets. And so, just doing something very basic to say, who is it that you contact or reach out to when you need support around academics? Okay, put their names in this bucket. Who is it that you call? Who's the first person you call or send a DM to or a message to when you see something funny on social and you want to connect, on that? And they'll go, "Oh, I always send, whatever to this group of people." I said, "Now, when you have friendship challenges or relationship challenges, whose advice do you really go to? Who do you go to? Who are you asking questions of?" And they start to look at those buckets. We'll just use those three. And when they look at those buckets, they start to realize what their themes are. There are some people that are absolutely not in all buckets. There are some in all buckets. I'm like, "Oh, this person's in each one of your buckets. Tell me about this person." And so what that does at an early age is it helps you start to think about who's around you and are they a real value centered and value add group of people. Are they adding value to your life? And do you add value to theirs? Those are the types of things that I love for our kids to have those epiphanies with early. So when I think about, seeing a young lady or a young man kind of go, "Oh, aha," around that idea, it's such a big deal. A lot of us don't get it until our 30s where we're like, "I need real friends around here." Like, who are my friends? And so you start trying to figure it out and you're trying to make friends as an adult and it's awkward and weird. And so you're trying to, figure out what you need. But my point is start early, evaluate often, and really understand what kinds of folks you want around you and who you need, because we all need different things at different seasons as well. So Yvonne, to your point, the disclaimer for sure, the takeaway, the call to action is look around your circle and identify who's adding value and who you're adding value to, and start to really evaluate the quality of those relationships, because that's going to be your sustaining factor for life. Like, there's a thread of people that go the distance. There are some that come for portions of your life, but there's a thread of folks that will do this walk with you for the rest of your life. And it's important for you to invest deeply in those relationships because you don't know what's going to happen in your life. You just don't know.
And it's never too late to start.
Never.
I guess somewhere along the way, I heard that it's harder to make friends the older that you get. And I'm not really challenging the wisdom in that. I think,
Yes.
Different strokes, different folks. But I just know I've been very blessed that people like you, like Arquella, have just shown up in my space. Like, Kyra, I don't even remember how we met, but you are here and you're a powerful life force in my life, right? And it's just like, wow. But there's intentionality in our relationship, and we're very committed to our friendship. So I just encourage anyone that may be listening, and maybe you're not an entrepreneur, but you're in a corporate job and you're struggling to maybe make some powerful connections with colleagues or with your external network. Just don't give up, right? You just have to kind of figure out less about what you can receive from people and more about what you can give to them.
That is 10,000%, Yvonne. If there was ever a golden egg, that's it. What is it that you can give? And I was explaining it this way. When I was walking into a networking event, I had 30 minutes and I knew I wanted to connect deeply. I had 30 real minutes. Like, when I started stepping towards the door, the clock started. And I said, I really, I'm a believer. So I had a conversation with God before I got out of the car. I'm like, show me, I always ask, show me who, show me when, show me how, show me what. And then I always say, I have 30 minutes. Show me how you want me to use this time. Like, what's the connection need to be? What does the connection need to be? And I walked in. It was the most impactful 30 minutes, had amazing discussions, amazing connectivity, amazing opportunities to reconnect with folks I hadn't talked to in years. And that was the value takeaway for me. We were able to lock in and reinforce relationships. So now I don't have to wonder if the relationship's solid. I hadn't seen that person in a couple of years, but we could reinforce some things. You know why? Because there's probably going to be a need for us to circle back in a minute. And so you talk about relationships, the value, and not starting relationships when you need them. It's like a bank loan. Don't call the bank when you're broke. Don't call the bank when you're broke. Like, it's going to be a hard conversation because you're hungry and they can taste it.
Right, exactly.
They can smell your from afar. It's funny, but we wish we knew it before we did it the first time, right? Yeah. You're like, golly. But don't, build deep. And Yvonne, just thinking about, I'll use you specifically. I tell my Arquella story often I was so afraid. I'll tell this. I was so afraid to reach out to Arquella, but I wanted to collaborate with her. And I wanted to collaborate with her in a time where my business was being met with some challenges. I was walking into a life moment, and I was like, I need to partner with someone so I can strengthen my capabilities. And I knew I did. And I was like, I'm like, man, I really like Arquella. Let me just see. And what was so funny is that when we sat down in this coffee shop, she was coming to me to partner with me. And I was like, whoo, didn't that just take a load off? I'm like, you want to do what? I'm like, girl, yes, absolutely. And then here's what I
right.
what wasn't so difficult, but you were a byproduct of that conversation because we started working on projects together and we began project meetings together. And then just, I would say over the last couple of years, I've had the blessing of like really creating our own true relationship that was outside of a task or a job or a work or a project. And you most recently were so very life-changing, at my private event at my home that I had, very serious about my friend groups. And you were there and you made an impact on my life that I will never forget, and an impact on the women in the room that are called out to be a part of my circle and I theirs. And then now you them, and likewise. That is it's simply an unforgettable moment. Like, you literally made such a tremendous impact. So when you think about the people around us, who you connect with is important. You changed my life in that moment. You solidified a huge life-changing moment.
Yeah, that was a powerful evening. And I feel the same way about you. And just know that all the women that were there experiencing that event were assigned. It was an assignment. We were assigned 100%. To be there. And we walked away transformed. But it was you being the hub, you being the developer, you being all the things that we just talked about that created that space for that to happen. So I know that we're rounding the corner with our time together. Kyra, you and I can talk for hours. We have proven that. But I want to reconnect to the spirit of you sharing advice to the younger people. You were talking about creating buckets for people and resources. If you could go back to a younger version of Kyra, and you pick an age, whatever that age is in your mind, what advice would you give her now that you've traversed the journey, now that you see everything that's in you? What would you tell the younger version of Kyra?
I'm going to go back like 20 years.
Okay.
And that 20-something-year-old version of me.
Okay. Is your mathing?
Yes, it is. What are you talking about? So I would tell her that the urgency of life that she feels, I've always been so task-driven and oriented, like, I got to meet a goal. That urgency that she feels is valid, that the path that she's on will produce fruit, and that she will become the vision that she saw in magazines, that she saw on top. She'll become a version of feminine, authoritative, polished, professional, educated, supportive, humanitarian, supportive woman, Black woman that she dreamt of becoming. And to rest assured that even though her journey is non-traditional, you didn't do all the things that you thought you were going to do the way you thought you were going to do, that you were going to be a life changer and impact the lives of others. I would tell her that. And the reason why I went back to her at 28 years old is because one of the things that I felt was this qualifier. I was trying to figure out if I was fitting the bill. Am I making the mark? Am I hitting the goal? And I put a lot of stress on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I missed a lot of amazing moments in my 20s because I was married, mother, working, homeowner at 20 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was under a lot of pressure to become whatever that thing was that I saw. And Yvonne, I'll be very honest with you, my models, although my parents were working before me, in front of me, my models were in magazines. I would read Black Enterprise like it was the Bible. I would read Essence like it was, I would read Forbes. I would read magazines to get a glimpse of what was ahead. I always knew I wanted to be a businesswoman, whatever that means, right? But I always knew there was a look, a feel, a style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I want to give her some support and just say, listen, honey, you are doing it and you're becoming, and I think that's something that I prefer to go back and get her and just tell her, keep going, because it actually works out and you're becoming, and you haven't even seen the half of it yet.
Well, you can't reach back to yourself, but just what showed up in my heart, Kyra, is that you've reached back to your daughter and to your sons. So that lands with them, and that's legacy building, right? So once they hear this podcast, and they probably heard that in some way, shape, or form, throughout the course of your relationship, but just to hear it in this format, that's the full circle moment.
That's it
for you. Yeah. Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was a treasure.
Oh my gosh, Kyra, this was just the best part of my day. Thank you so much for your time. Yes.
Thank you for all of it.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to Arquella Hargrove, the connector, the hub in all of this, and the driver for the Alchemy Consulting Group and the Alchemy Consulting Group podcast. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you consume yours. You don't want to miss one of these great episodes. And you can find Kyra Hardwick across all social media channels. So please connect with her there. And Kyra, we hope that you will come back and join us again real soon.
It would be my absolute pleasure to come back whenever you all call. It's a yes.
Yes,
it's
for
yes.
sure.
Some people just get a yes. You got it.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. We'll take it. Okay. Thanks, Kyra. It was great to talk to you.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Alchemy Consulting Group podcast. Follow this podcast on social media and help continue the conversation by sharing your business and leadership best practices. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you consume yours, and share this podcast with your organizations and networks. Let's strengthen the community of those committed to responsible leadership and work environments where everyone can thrive.